Next guest, he is Adam Friedman. He is the rankings director for Arrivals. Adam, thanks so much for hopping on. Imagine you don't get a lot of time to rest these days with the portal windows popping up every other day, it seems.
Yeah, it is high season. I appreciate you having me back on again during portal season, around signing day, too. This is a really exciting time to see what Syracuse and Coach Fran Brown are cooking up for this coming season.
Yeah, and as we saw from our guy, Fran Brown, Fran always seems to find a way to get himself in the news, does he not, Adam? We obviously have been going through it here this week with Trevor Pena, the leading receiver, entering the portal. Then Fran kind of telling his side of it all yesterday. That kind of splashed around the world of college football. What did you make of that whole scene involving Fran?
Well, Fran is never afraid to speak his mind, and he's certainly at the cutting edge of college football, too. I mean, you look at what he was trying to do with the spring practice, the joint practice with Colorado, and, you know, he's all for moving the sport forward, but he's not really going to stand for somebody trying to come in and leverage more, like a whole lot more money from the program like Trevor did. I mean, it's really interesting to see what Syracuse is going to do to fill that void now that Pena is gone and seemingly headed to Miami. We'll see how things turn out. Texas Tech also involved with him. I would expect at least one, if not two receivers. We're seeing quarterbacks coming in and the coaching staff taking a look at them, and we're going to see additions on both the offensive and defensive lines here in the spring portal for Syracuse.
Okay, yeah, and that's what we were just talking about before this. Especially with presumably, if this stuff all goes through, this 105 roster limit coming, obviously it gets a little tougher, right, to squeeze everybody in. How have you noticed Syracuse, for one, dealing for that, or schools at large dealing with that maybe being imminent as soon as literally having to be down to that number for this season?
Oh, we're going to get closer to 5,000 players into the portal this cycle by the time all is said and done. Yesterday we had 1,000 players enter the portal. That's just the first day of the spring window. And that put us in the neighborhood of 4,000 total for the entire cycle. We're going to eclipse that. I think we've already eclipsed that today, I believe. I'd have to double check that. But a lot of the players that we're seeing go into the portal are those guys at the end of the rosters for each of these college football teams. They're trying to get to that 105 limit. It seems like that's where things are going to end up, when we're all reading and seeing what the lawyers are doing in this House case and when that settlement is going to go through. But most of the players that we're seeing are guys at the end of those rosters heading to the portal, trying to find a place where they can continue their football careers. And that's a lot. That's what we're seeing a lot with we saw that with West Virginia yesterday. Rich Rod had 36 players go in from West Virginia yesterday. And he's a full makeover of that roster at West Virginia. Just much like what we saw Deion Sanders do at Colorado, really for the past two seasons. Rich Rod's going to be very active. He picked up a commitment today from an offensive lineman from South Alabama, and we're going to see teams around the country continue to use this portal to try to not only get down to that 105 limit, but still upgrade their roster while they're seeing players enter from the smaller schools and really other schools around the country that had really deep rosters.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, right, Adam, as Adam Friedman from Rivals is with us, just due to sheer math, a lot of these people are not going to find landing spots, right? I mean, I guess there's probably a lot of walk-ons and whatnot would be included in this group, but, if there's 5,000 people in the portal, there's nowhere near that many landing spots out there.
No, not at all. And we just saw, it made news yesterday, too, that Limestone University is cutting, they're closing the whole school, but that's a whole other football program that's gone too. So you're going to see those players enter the portal. Limestone University is not a headlining program, but we're just seeing more and more players enter the portal, but not as many landing spots for them are available, when things kind of slow down here in the next couple of weeks.
All right, I want to get back to Fran Brown here because obviously, everything he said yesterday, it's fascinating for 8 million reasons, but the main football side of it is basically like, yeah, we're not paying a wide receiver that much money. I'd say in many ways, there's the one side of it, right? That could turn off wide receivers. Like, well, if they're not going to pay that, why would we want to show up there? It doesn't feel that happens to Fran. What's the read on that of how Fran is able to say some of this stuff, and it seems like he's able to, give it all just the slight positive spin when he needs to do it.
Well, Fran has done a really good job. As soon as he got to Syracuse, he and his staff have really turned that roster. They found immediate success last season, and they're going to continue to have confidence in their ability to scout, find players, and put them in the best position possible on the field, and give their team the best chance to have a winning record and really make waves in the ACC and continue to build this program. They're not going to put all their eggs in one basket, which is essentially what Pena was asking them to do, and they're going to do what they need to upgrade the roster as a whole and continue to bring in talented players to Syracuse. They're not going to allow somebody to leverage them in a way that Pena was trying to, and really at the detriment of the entire program.
Where does Trevor sit right now amongst the other wide receivers available in the portal right now?
He's one of the top 5 receivers available right now. We're seeing more and more enter essentially as we continue to talk here, we're seeing more and more enter. We saw Hakeem Williams from Florida State enter the portal today. Nitro Tuggle entered the portal today from Georgia. Hardly Gilmore, he went to back to Kentucky earlier this morning, and Adrian Wilson went to North Carolina this morning as well. So it's pretty fluid, but Pena is one of the top 5 receivers available. And we'll see how Syracuse is able to respond. I've heard early interest from Tuggle in Syracuse. We'll see if that really has legs as the process continues. He's a name to definitely watch, though, if you're a Syracuse fan.
Yeah, obviously, Fran has the Georgia ties and is still tight with Kirby Smart, so that would make sense. And Jackson Meeks had the 1,000-yard season here last year, so 1 + 1 might equal 2 there going forward. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's hit quarterbacks here a little, Adam. And I know you're the rankings director for Rivals, so you go back and you line this up going back to when the guys are in high school. So Ricky Collins is here now. The Orange got him out of the portal from LSU. Obviously, he's not played a ton of college ball yet because of the, Nussmeier and Jaden Daniels and the guys that have been at LSU that he's been behind. What kind of player should Syracuse expect in Collins from the kind of recruit that he was?
Yeah, he was always a really cerebral quarterback at the high school level. He had a great read on the offense. He understood where the ball should be going, and he was very poised in the pocket. Didn't always have the strongest arm, certainly wasn't necessarily the fastest out there, although we did list him as a dual-threat quarterback coming out. He does have mobility to extend the play, but I don't expect him to break off huge runs on a consistent basis and really have 10-plus rushing attempts in a game. I don't want to get anybody confused there. Ricky is not going to be one of those really mobile quarterbacks there, but he is a smart player who's going to understand where the ball needs to go. He's going to play within the system. He's shown accuracy in the past, and I'm excited to see how he's developed over these last few years at the college level, certainly getting some really good coaching down there at LSU, and he's bringing that with him to Syracuse and allowing this staff to mold him into what the quarterback they need him to be going forward.
Yeah, and obviously he's going to get to work with the same group of offensive coaches. That whole staff, for the most part, stayed intact from last year, as Kyle McCord did last year, and we're getting ready to see where McCord goes in the draft next week, and he just did the Gruden QB school thing last night, which was awesome. So obviously Syracuse fans have this vision of McCord in our heads, which, now this is totally unfair to Ricky Collins. We all know that. So can you compare and contrast their games? We saw what McCord was last year. How different a player style-wise is Collins?
Well, Collins is certainly more mobile than McCord, but I think maybe you and I might be more mobile than McCord. But Kyle was one of my favorites coming out of high school, and we all saw how quickly he was able to have success at Ohio State, for sure. I mean, even though he ran out of there, and then certainly at Syracuse, he continued to have a lot of success there. He's going to be one of the first 5 or 6 quarterbacks, I think, taken in this draft, and I'm hoping he lands in not the NFC East where my Commanders play, but I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. But Collins is not as advanced a passer at this stage, although we are going to learn a lot about him now that he's going to have his first real chance to have a lot of snaps and a lot of starts this year. But I would not expect immediate success like McCord had. There's going to be a bit of a ramp up period, a bit of a learning curve there when the bullets really start flying. And I would expect, though, you're going to see the natural talent Collins has, and that's going to shine through in a lot of different scenarios. We'll see after a few weeks what his trajectory looks like, going forward.
And go figure, given the major story in the college football world this week, that his first start, Collins's, will be against Tennessee, who will be starting. I don't know. It will not be Nico Iamaleava. What is that? Like, what are the ripples of what happened with Nico at Tennessee? Obviously, it's a wild story. Do you feel this is like a one-off situation, or is this the start of something that, holdouts, weird transfers? Is this was he the test case, and we're going to see more of this going forward?
Well, Nico isn't the only quarterback out there who went to their team to ask for more money this year. So let's clear the air on that. Number two, I don't think that this is the end of that. And number three, there's a whole set of dominoes that this set off across the country when it comes to just on the field. Who's going to be playing for what school? We're hearing a lot of different names that Tennessee is looking at to see if they enter the portal. We just saw Steve Angeli from Notre Dame is entering the transfer portal. He was competing for the starting spot this season, and obviously that's not the case anymore. And he could be a potential candidate to end up at Tennessee. There are other quarterbacks who are still trying to make their decision whether or not they want to enter the portal. We'll see if Nico, though, ends up at UCLA. All signs point to that deal is not done just yet. He is, of course, from Southern California. He's from Long Beach, so heading home would seem like a natural fit there. I think it's been pretty well publicized, though. Nico and his family and his representatives really mismanaged the situation. If they were going to enter the portal, they should have done so in December and really allowed the market to settle where they wanted it to be. And now, leaving their team with, right before their spring game and kind of leaving them high and dry here in ahead of the 2025 season. That's, he's taken a big hit from his reputation, and going forward, his potential earnings are certainly going to take a hit. His NIL deal with whatever team he ends up with now, if it is UCLA, it's nowhere near what he was looking for in that $4 million range. It'll be much, much less than that, and much less than what he was already getting from Tennessee. But we have to go back and also remember that Nico was the first big NIL deal that we heard for a quarterback coming out of the high school ranks, $8 million or so. And that number was probably up closer to 10 by the time all was said and done. And, it was not unreasonable for him to go back and ask for a raise, considering there were other quarterbacks out there who got more than him and had not played as much, had not had as much success, and were getting more money. But Nico and his family overplayed their hand and didn't have the leverage they thought they did.
No, it seems clear they did not. And go figure, his brother was once committed to go to UCLA before decommitting, and where'd he end up? Arkansas. So the whole family's had a very odd relationship with UCLA thus far. We got Adam Friedman from Rivals with us. I want to ask you about another school that's on Syracuse's schedule this year, and they'll be here on a Halloween Friday with their new head coach, Bill Belichick. What is North Carolina doing? How have you noticed this working thus far with Belichick and Mike Lombardi as their GM and the talent acquisition going on in Chapel Hill?
Yeah, they are not wasting any time. They are one of the most active teams in the transfer portal not just this spring, but they were incredibly active in December as well. They have a strong roster of just older players now based off of who they brought in the transfer portal and who they've had leave already off the roster. We saw a number of players leave yesterday. One unexpected in Bo Atkinson, one of their best defensive players. He's going to end up at a powerhouse program here before the spring portal window is over. Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, all going to be involved there for Bo Atkinson. But when you look at this North Carolina roster, you're really wondering what style they're going to play, what players are actually going to hit the field and who's going to be under center for them at quarterback. You've got Max Johnson, who's coming back from this terrible leg injury, the standout quarterback from the high school level they just signed, in Bryce Baker. Was one of the last players to sign in the 2025 cycle, but it's unlike Bill Belichick to allow an inexperienced quarterback to hit the field in his first year. The Tar Heels are trending for I think it's South Alabama quarterback Gio Lopez. He's in the portal right now, and all signs point to the Tar Heels getting him. So he may not be the typical quarterback we're used to seeing play for Bill Belichick, a smaller lefty, but really productive. A high QBR last year. I think it was in the 80s. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm not entirely sold on how they are evaluating at the high school level, but they are in right now mode, and that's why they're being so active in the transfer portal, trying to get bigger, more developed players.
All right, great stuff, Adam. Always great to chat. Fascinating times, are they not? You never quite know what's coming around the corner. But thanks for hopping on. I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Enjoy the portal season.
We do. We always do. There he is, Adam Friedman. He is the rankings director from Rivals. He's on top of the portal. Be sure to check him out at Rivals Friedman on Twitter and wherever Rivals coverage can be found. With that, we'll step aside in this hour, brought to you by William Matar. I'm watching John Gruden unbox a giant box of Syracuse swag that Kyle McCord sent him. We'll play a little bit of their QB class stuff back in a little bit. Phone lines are open, 315-437-7644. Michael Leo of the lacrosse team joins us in around about half an hour. We're back after this on a Thursday. It's Q Sports Talk and ESPN Radio.
The